Are you paying attention to the information that is coming out right now today? Well, if so, you're going to be aware of the fact that we are seeing the reverberations, the memories from 2008, 2009 going on right here and now. In today's video, I'm going to talk about number one, delinquencies as well as evictions and why that's connected to debt. And the second thing is the mass layoffs that are occurring. You gotta understand when you put all of these pieces together, it shows us that these are all recessionary. So important to look at it today because they're not going to acknowledge that in the media. They're going to wait until it's all long overdue. But I'm going to show you the information you need to know right now. Let's begin. First things first, evictions are picking up across the US. In this case here, we can see with evictions, these weren't an issue for a few years. Why was that the case? Well, there was these things called moratoriums that were put in place that basically said the landlords, you cannot boot anybody out. And that lasted for a while, depended on where you were. Some states were different than others, but the point here is that for a lot of people, they were unable to pay their bills or didn't pay their bills, and as a result, no matter what the landlord wanted, they couldn't be kicked onto the street. Well, now that's reversed. With most of the eviction protections having expired and rents rising, the number of tenants coming home to find notices on their doors is picking up. So in this article, they do talk about what people should be aware of, just knowing your rights and so on. But I wanted to cover the data itself, okay, because that's what I do here on this channel. And they show us that in the first week of January, they counted more than 9,300 eviction filings in the 9 states and 32 cities that they monitor. We've seen in recent months an increase in eviction filings in the areas we track, sometimes back towards the averages pre-2020 and sometimes worse. It depends on where they are, depends on so many things, but the point I'm trying to highlight here is that as debt rises, we encounter problems. Here we are 3 years out from when this all began, and there are so many people, so many households that are in the same circumstance or even worse circumstance than they were before. Their lives didn't improve over this time. Inflation has picked up significantly, and even though there are millions, absolutely millions of job openings right now today, there are still these circumstances for so many people. I will cover one of those issues there where we look at the type of jobs that are available. I mean, they're everywhere, but a lot of times they're low-paying jobs, and it is simply not enough because when you factor in maybe the daycare services, you look at the transportation fees, gasoline, all these different things, you add them up, and for some people, it just doesn't make sense for them to do all of these things only to get a few pennies at the end of it. Well, that's what happens when you go through these monetary cycles. I've tried to describe this before, and I will be doing a video in the coming days referring to what I call the money mirror method. It's going to describe how we move through a cycle and why this is so devastating to everybody when we get to this point. And what is that? Well, quite simply, it's when we have a restrictive policy in especially the monetary policy, which is basically what the central bank does, but also the fiscal policy, because during that time when there was all these moratoriums and everything else, everything was kind of good, right? You looked at it where there was stimulus money being thrown out everywhere, and at the same time, there was an unlimited amount of debt. But now we are changing the tune, we're getting to more restrictive policy, and as a result, the problems are showing up. That's the big news. That's really the big difference. People are not paying their car loans. Auto loans delinquent, overdue, by more than 60 days are now up 26.7% from a year ago. Not a crisis just yet, but watch this trend closely. And, I wanted to highlight this just to show us that during these periods, we do experience delinquencies. These are coming from super low levels. Let me be the first to say that. They're coming from super low, artificially low levels. So yes, up 26.7%, but the total is still low. I must mention this to you if you're not aware. You look at how much of the activity back in, let's say, 2007 to 2008 was related to subprime mortgages. The total it was so small compared to the total. So small things can make a big difference. Have you ever seen that, the small domino and the one knocks over the other one, the other one, the other one, and suddenly a whole building can fall over starting from a very small domino? The same thing happens in finance. It's the exact same thing. Now, I know the font is extremely small, but I wanted to show you the source itself. Two things really quickly. Auto loan performance in December saw further deterioration. Loans delinquent by more than 60 days increased by 5.3%. That is up 26.7% from a year ago. You look at all loans, which were severely delinquent, small percentage, but it is at the highest rate since February of 2009. Subprime loans, same situation, those have risen as well. The point I'm trying to make here is that we go through these cycles when money gets really tight. Well, then we start to realize, oh no, maybe it's not wise for somebody who already has kind of trouble making ends meet, whether they're making 50,000 or 250,000, that they shouldn't be buying that luxury vehicle and they shouldn't be doing this or that, but they do anyway. Well, as soon as debt becomes more expensive, we realize the problem. As investors look for ways to diversify their portfolios, alternative investments have been seeing significant growth. In fact, even financial giants like Goldman Sachs and BlackRock have noted that the days of there is no alternative, Tina, to traditional investments are over. According to a recent RIA report, 88% of surveyed financial advisors intend to increase allocations to alternatives over the next 2 years, with over half of them planning to raise allocations to 15%. Many institutions have already reached their maximum allocation of 30 to 50% in alts. One alternative that has seen particularly impressive numbers is fine art. In the first 5 months of 2022, the average piece sold for 26% more at auction. In fact, 2022 was the best auction year ever, with the highest total from the big three auction houses, nearly $18 billion. It's worth noting that the last time inflation was this high, 1977 to 1982, the Art 100 index appreciated 130% compared to 80% inflation. Additionally, contemporary art has an average annual appreciation of 13.8% according to the Masterworks index. That's why I'm excited to partner with Masterworks, a company that has been written about in Forbes, Business Insider, and the Financial Times. Masterworks offers paintings from legendary artists like Picasso and Banksy, which are qualified with the SEC and broken into shares. This means that when one resells, you get a slice of the potential profits. Masterworks' last 3 exits have delivered 13, 35, and 10% net returns. And they've had 5 exits this year alone. With nearly 600,000 members, Masterworks paintings have sold out in minutes. However, you can get priority access by visiting the link in the description. And so many begin to ask, where do we go from here? It's an uncertain future for our investments, for the economy as well. Let me show you. Discover drops after warning about rising credit card losses. Firm sees net charge-offs climbing as high as 3.9% this year, but as they say, artificially low levels. You know that this is the case, that is reality, but it's important to note that at this time, we're not looking at it as if it's nothing. We're paying attention, paying close attention. The data is clearly there. Look, I'm just showing you in chart form, same thing, discover charge-off rate. It is higher than where we've been in the last little while. It's picking up, but we've really only just begun in terms of having higher rates. In fact, if they start dropping those rates, the problem will still be felt. So let's say, I don't know, first quarter of next year, they start to decrease interest rates. The problem is still felt months after that. It's not as if, okay, we get a breath of fresh air as soon as rates drops. Not really. Depends, of course, on what we're talking about, but not for credit card usage. US savings rate, come on. This has gotten down to levels we've just never seen before, basically. At the same time, credit card debt has increased to levels we've never seen before, basically. And it's just unbelievable to see it in the way that we do. These two correlate perfectly together, and you look at how that has an impact on evictions, on delinquencies. Certainly, people, they run out of cash, they have nothing left, they spend on their credit card, buy now, pay later has become so popular. And why? Well, for some people, they don't know how to manage their money, but for others, they're struggling. They're just struggling just to keep ends, to make ends meet. This is the average credit card interest rate soaring past 19%. I've covered it in a video just recently where I talked about the fact that the average balance, people are carrying, I think it was $5,500, something around that range of a balance. And you're going to, pay it 19% interest. It's going to take you forever to actually pay that down. Rising delinquencies or an increase in the number of individuals who are unable to make payments on their debts can be an indication of financial distress among consumers. This can signal that a significant portion of the population is struggling to make ends meet, which can have a negative impact on the overall economy. During a recession, delinquencies typically rise as unemployment increases and incomes decline, making it more difficult for individuals to meet their financial obligations. This was the case during the 2008 financial crisis, when delinquency rates on mortgages, credit cards, and other types of debt soared as the economy went into a recession. The rising delinquencies in the wake of the financial crisis had a cascading effect on the economy as it led to foreclosures, evictions, and financial hardship for many families. Additionally, it put a strain on banks and other financial institutions, many of which were required to write off bad loans and take significant losses. That is where we are at today, and that really shows us without the strong jobs market, without the strong consumer, we cannot have a strong economy. Let me show you some examples of what's coming right now, today. Intel's California job cuts will be more than twice as big as expected. We heard the same thing with Amazon. Google to cut 12,000 jobs, its largest layoff ever. Larger than 2009, larger than anything before this. Okay, look, this is important, but you got to understand that we are seeing some major red flags right now. Google calls in help from Larry Page and Sergey Brin for AI fight. So ChatGPT comes in, it's the new game in town. And what does that mean? It means less ad revenue for Google. They're worried. Obviously, they call in the founders to come in. This is going on for all companies. They're all affected by it. Wayfair stock climbs after online retailer lays off 1,750 workers. The one thing that's for sure is that you can increase the actual price of your stock by laying a whole bunch of people off. They love that. Microsoft to cut engineering jobs this week as layoffs go deeper. You might have heard about that. I believe I covered it in the previous video, but here's another one to add to it. Microsoft hosted Sting performance in Davos on the night before announcing layoffs. Oh, so fantastic. Here's Sting. Let's perform for a few people in Davos that came on private jets, but we're going to lay off tens of thousands of people. Capital One cuts more than 1,100 tech jobs. Just another company. You can track the layoffs already in 2023. They've announced 55,000 tech jobs to be laid off. 55,000 already. It's January. Ladies and gentlemen, it is January. And then we have this, how robots are helping address the fast food labor shortage. I wanted to show you that as well. Not people surfing, but the point was that it just shows you right here, Flippy 2, as well as you look at Chippy and the others that are around. These companies here are doing one thing, and that is they are trying to reduce headcount, and they're dealing with the crisis in that they're unable to find workers. So they're basically saying, I'll just buy a robot. So that robot that I was just discussing is about $30,000, I think. And they implement that within White Castle. They're doing that at White Castle right now. And the goal is to have that eliminate 2 jobs. Right now, it's only 1 job, and they're kind of working up kinks. And that's happening now already. It's not as if, oh yeah, this is going to happen into the future. Do you really think that a company, a corporation, they're looking from top down and they're saying to themselves, do we try to hire more people, or do we just simply put more robots in place? It's the robots. That's what's happening. So you got to have your system in order right now today. You got to figure this stuff out. You cannot rely on a social assistance program, a safety net to be there for you, because they're clearly not having that for us. It's just not going to be there. So we got to be aware of that, and we got to take all this information in and do our best. I've got tons of information for you. I've got the playlists on my channel for you to check out, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. I will see you tomorrow. Take care.